Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Community Works. I'm Bernadette Welsh, your host. Each one of our shows highlights a local nonprofit agency in our state. Our goal is to educate you, our viewers, about the great work that's going on all around us every day by local agencies and their supporters. When people help their neighbors, everybody benefits. The focus of today's show is the work of KOAH, and this stands for Kids of America's Heroes. This organization's goal is to help children of military families cope with school and healthy living. They have programs that do that, and it's just a wonderful organization. Now, we usually think of childhood as a happy, fun time, but I think we all, if we think about it, know that children have fears and concerns even under the best of circumstances. Now imagine that mom or dad is serving in the United States military with all the things that that implies. So I am so happy to have as my guests the founders of KOAH. So we're going to have Maria Phillips, who is the founder. We're going to have Jason Burke, who is a retired Navy captain and also one of the founders of KOAH. So welcome to the show. Hi, Maria.
Hi there.
Hi,
How are
Jason.
you?
I'm doing great.
Thank you for that beautiful introduction.
Oh, well, you're most welcome. You're most welcome. A lot of people, we're gonna educate a lot of people in the next half hour.
Great.
So, Maria, would you start us off?
Absolutely.
Would you talk to us about the mission, a little bit of the history of KOAH?
Certainly. KOAH is a 501c3 whose sole mission is to advocate and educate on behalf of military-connected kids, to connect them to their community, because military kids, as you opened with, have a hard time. They not only have a household, let's say a teenager, all teenagers have a rough life. Now throw into the element that either mom or dad or both are deployed.
That's amazing.
Because sometimes it is both, and sometimes those children are living with a guardian. So if little Joey is acting up in school, or Susie is being a bully in the playground, maybe the reality is that we need to look and explore what's going on in their home.
Yes.
And maybe what's going on in their home is they did not get a call from mom last night who's serving in Afghanistan, or dad who's over in Germany is not returning calls because something has gone awry and there's just nothing happening. So those children can act out. And they'll act out in different ways. They could be depressed, they could have fear, anticipatory grief, anxiety. And we are here to educate everyone about what's going on with military kids, because there are more than 2 million displaced children living in this country.
Wow.
The sons and daughters of our active duty military, deployed National Guard and Reserve. And we are here to protect them all.
Well, that is a wonderful goal of your organization.
Thank you.
So what do, especially now if we talk about the school setting, Maria, what do teachers and guidance counselors need to know? How do we tell them? How does your organization work?
How do we fit in with that?
The teachers and the guidance counselors.
Well, we are right now training military child counselors. And, you know, every school has a psychiatrist and every school has guidance counselors. And they work really well with the students. Believe me, I know that firsthand. But when the second element of military culture and military life is thrown into it, it's very difficult, because many psychologists, psychiatrists, and school guidance counselors are not trained in military culture. It's totally different than civilian culture.
Right.
So what we're doing is we've organized so we can train, and we'll be rolling it out district by district by district, not only in the state of Connecticut, but throughout the entire country. So that way guidance counselors will have a handle on how to deal with children.
That's awesome. That is so great. That's really what viewers really need to know. So now let's talk about specific programs that you and Jason have created to help schools and children. So is there any specific program that you'd like to talk to us about?
Well, we have our signature program is called HUG, KOAH HUG. And what we do is we send care packages to children throughout their parents' deployment. So every month the child receives something from us, whether it be a letter or gifts throughout the year when their parent is deployed. We'll send them gifts as well. But a letter comes from another child, usually a civilian counterpart, telling the child that they appreciate the other one's sacrifice. Because when a parent serves our great nation, so do their children.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. That's awesome. So that's the care package program.
Yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about?
Beginning in September, we will have training we're assembling a fleet of therapists who will be trained in military child counseling. So that way we can offer children, of course, all HEPA compliant, through a Skype-like program or FaceTime program.
Okay.
FaceTime without the Apple mess that just came down.
Yeah, no doubt.
The good FaceTime. The good FaceTime.
And this way children who are in non-emergency crisis can contact a therapist at no cost.
Good.
100% confidential.
Excellent, excellent. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for giving us that intro piece.
My pleasure.
Yeah, so now you've been very patient, Captain Burke. I have to call you Jason, though, right?
Please.
Okay,
yes.
please call me Jason. So, Jason, could you tell us what's different about today's military? I mean, there is a difference, I would think, in being in a voluntary military situation versus back the way it was before 1993 when everybody had to serve.
Right.
So how does that impact how we understand America's military families?
Yeah, you've done your research. So, in 73, the latter stages of the Vietnam War, the United States realized that they're going to do away with the draft, where if you're 18-year-old male, you had to register and potentially go to war, right? So it's morphed since then to a more professional force. And I don't mean that in a negative way to those that have served or have been drafted, but there were a lot of morale issues back then based on individuals that got drafted, didn't want to serve, and they had to based on the law, right? And so now with the technological advances and the professional aspect of the force, the military force, it's become much regarded as a much more professional entity and respected, regardless of the political climate.
Right, true.
So that's the positive part of it. Maria alluded to a little bit of it. We've been at war since 2001, late 2001.
We have.
So, I mean, men and women have been deployed, not just the active duty force, but the reserve component and the National Guard of each state. And places like Guam. I served in Afghanistan with a unit from Guam. And so that are U.S. territories that serve in the U.S. military. And so it's not apparent. So the positive side of very ethical, morally driven, culturally perceptive force based on the nature of the asymmetric warfare, where even junior enlisted folks are out in the countryside in Afghanistan, Iraq, Horn of Africa, and dealing with those cultures and being able to be supportive of those communities in other parts of the world. The drawback is that they're National Guard members, they're reservists, they're leaving their family in communities that aren't supported by a military institution. And for Connecticut example, New London, Groton area, and pretty much that's about it. And then in the Navy Marine Corps area, the rest, but there are Army, Marine Corps, Air Force reservists, and Air and Army National Guard Connecticut residents that deploy, and they've deployed them like no other time in this country's history. And,
for a long
and
tour.
it affects the families and the children, which is really kind of trickles down to what really why we're here and why we're talking to you.
Right, and the other thing I would think too is that back when my parents in the 40s, when we had World War II and the Korean War, more people in the community. New people, everybody it was everybody, right? Unless you had a deferment of some kind. So it was kind of more like my parents were explaining to me, everybody was in the same boat. Everybody was making a sacrifice. More families were involved in military service, and now it's like there's like a disconnect.
There's a disconnect, and so you can look at it from a positive and negative aspect to it, right? In World War II, one of every four people in the United States knew someone, had an immediate relative that served.
Absolutely.
Now in Vietnam era, it's like 1 in 24.
Yep.
Now it's 1 in every 200 plus people have somebody who's a relative.
The percentage, if you want to put it into percentage-wise, it's less than 0.5% of the United States population serves our country. Less than 0.5%.
That's huge. I think that's a huge difference.
So the positive aspect of that, and I don't want to try and make it completely negative. The positive aspect of it is like we can go on with our lives as a civilian, and right, we don't have to really think about those, even though there's troops deployed.
Right.
You know, fighting the Taliban or fighting ISIS or doing those things. We don't necessarily have to think about it because we're disjoined from that. The negative aspect of it is just really that the same thing too, is like there are people that are part of our country that are there fighting and losing their lives still.
Yes, still
doing
losing
that.
their
So we
lives.
can not have to think about it.
Right, right. And protecting our freedoms, our freedom of religion, our freedom of speech.
Right.
Right.
And the children of those families are affected of that based on those deployments. And even if we're not at war, the Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force,
people still serve.
They still deploy, right?
Yes,
the Navy's
right.
been at sea since 1775. And the Marine Corps and the Air Force deployed overseas. Many of the deployments are unaccompanied. So the service member leaves for a year and they, fortunately technology, you can get some Skype and you can get some of that, but it's we all know it's not
the
same
same
as being there and raising your children.
Absolutely not. It's a
Being
huge,
there for birthdays and those
huge
types of things.
sacrifice.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we have given this good overview, we're going to switch now, and I'm going to try to keep my composure because we're going to be watching a video where young children, teenagers, a little bit younger, are going to talk about how they feel about their particular situation with moms and dads in the military. So if we could roll that video, please, I would appreciate showing that right now.
My father has been deployed at least over 8 times.
My father's been deployed 6 or 7 times.
4 or 5
My
times.
dad has been deployed.
He's been
8 or 9
deployed about
times.
7
My father's
times.
been deployed 3 times.
Deployed right now.
My dad's deployed
All
right
three went
now,
to Iraq.
and he's been deployed ever since.
He's fixing to deploy again.
I've moved 7 or 8 times.
4 or 5 times.
South America,
North Carolina,
Virginia, Palms, New York. I'm moving to Florida.
Alabama,
Europe
Florida,
and Arizona.
Texas.
California.
I don't remember the rest.
Why do we have to move everywhere?
Like every single day, it's just like you're always thinking about him, thinking about like how his day went, what it's like where he is, and like, what's pretty much going on with everything that he does. It's kind of like you're worried like all the time,
When my father is deployed, I'm scared that he might come home injured.
When my mom's not around, I'll have no one to talk to, and I'll have no one to help me on my homework when I really need it.
Being the man of the house.
It's pretty hard because I worry a lot about what's gonna happen and I don't really pay attention.
I help my mom out. I do whatever I can. And then as the months go by, I'm just waiting to see him.
They didn't know how to handle it because they don't really get that many military kids. And on a military base, they help us because they know what we're going through.
Most of the kids didn't understand what I was going through. They were like, oh, your dad's military, that's no big deal. That can't be hard for you. That doesn't affect you at all. And they didn't understand, but in a military school, they understand what you're going through because they're going through it too.
In civilian school, they don't know to appreciate that. They don't know how you feel. So if something happens, they can't relate to that or understand.
A lot of schools, they have kind of the same curriculum, being on-base schools, except for this school here being an off-base school. They go by an entirely different curriculum than in other schools.
Pretty hard because when I moved out here from Minnesota, we were learning completely different things in each core subject. And I got out here and they were way ahead of us and everything.
One, being I don't really know who my dad is at this point because he's gone so often. 2, dealing with the fact that we're constantly moving and not knowing what's coming next. 3, having people who don't understand you whatsoever.
It's hard when he leaves.
My dad gave me this dog tag. It says, Kaylee, be strong, I love you, be home soon, love Daddy.
Well, I don't know about you, but that didn't get you a little bit concerned about our little ones. I don't know. I think there's something the matter with you. first time I watched it again before the show, and I lost it. I just really lost it. So I think we're going to take a big deep breath and say thank you to those young people that had the courage and the concern to be taped and to listen. So what can we say?
Well, Jason can speak firsthand on this because he has, he raised 2 children while he was stationed far away. And his wife was back home raising the 2 girls. Yeah. So he can speak better on.
Yeah, no, you know, I did Navy deployments on ships, and it was dangerous work, and then on the ground in Afghanistan too. And it's just, as the kids got older, there's a realization that, hey, Dad's gone. And you know, you put that burden on one parent. And it's not always just a parent. It could be a grandparent or a guardian if they're a single parent. Many folks don't know this, that you can't get out of a deployment while you're on active duty or get recalled to active duty unless I think the only way is if you're the director of a hospital. Really, that's the only way if you're a medical officer. The rest, you're being deployed.
That's it, you're going.
You're going. So you got to figure out what you're doing with your children if you're a single parent.
You sign off a contract saying
if
where
you
your
did,
children
I mean,
will
that's
go.
part of. I mean, that's part of signing. I mean, it's part of being in the military, and that's just the way. You know, that's the way it is, and that's how. I mean, I think that's fair and how it should be. And you know, I was there for both my child's births, which were wonderful, but I think you miss the more important dates, the birthdays, the daddy-daughter dances, the anniversaries, and those type things. So, yeah, it's difficult, and with 2 girls, with a mother that that is trying to discipline as they become teenagers, there's a lot of friction, and there's not that potentially good cop, bad cop, or
she's doing it all on her own.
Raising 2 children by herself, and dealing with, Maria touched on the anticipatory grief of somebody's in a combat zone, the parent is in a combat zone, and potentially to be injured or killed or not come home.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that leads us into our next thought. And Maria, now I'd like to direct this question to you, because I understand that you are a child of a dad who was in the military.
My father was in the military.
How was life like for you?
My father was a little different because my dad was, he was a World War II veteran.
Yes.
So he was at Yukon, and the news that shook the world.
Yes.
Pearl Harbor's attack. He was a freshman. So he immediately jumped out of Yukon, enlisted.
As many men did.
As many men did. And he went into the Army Air Corps. That's how long ago it was. We did not have an Air Force at that time. So my father enlisted in the Army Air Corps, and he became a lieutenant and a navigator on B-17s. He flew 25 missions over Germany, 5 over Belgium, 5 over France. He came home, and he lived a very upstanding, wonderful life. He had 4 children. He married his love of his life. They lived together until they both passed in 2012. So they had been together forever. But my father suffered from what today is called PTSD or TBI.
Right, and we didn't talk about that
His plane had been shaken up as all the B-17s were. He was in the Flying Fortress. And those planes were, what is it called, flacking?
Flak and sure, the sky would German aircraft.
Exactly, the sky would look like it was night because they flew only day missions, but there was so much flak going on, so many things being fired at them. So my father's, although they all wore flak suits, their brains got a little bit knocked up in those tin cans that we call planes.
Yes.
And they witnessed people falling out of formation, planes being shot down next to them, their friends going. And this is at a time, if we can recall, the Memphis Belle, the movie The Memphis Belle.
Yes.
Where it took a lot to even achieve the 25 missions. People were not coming back.
Yeah.
So this is a time, if you just put yourself back there, this is a time when this is what's going on. Your friends aren't coming home. They go out on a mission with you and they're not returning back. So my dad had problems.
Okay, and so how did that affect
It
your
affected
relation? I'm sure it affected you deeply.
Absolutely. We never spoke about the war until he was much older.
Yes.
In later life, we finally did speak about it. But it was, he would have nightmares and terrors and migraines, and we weren't allowed to speak to him on certain days and certain times because it was just bad. It was difficult, but you walk on eggshells and around it.
Yes.
Today, children are witnessing the same sort of thing. The psychological effects, as well as the traumatic brain injury that's coming back from our wars that we're out with, or even training missions for that matter.
Yes.
And these children are dealing with it. And now there's something else. Back when my father was serving, it was a mission of,
yes.
and you completed it and you came home.
Yes.
Today, you come home only to retrain
right.
exactly, to resume another mission or another.
So may I
deployment.
say that is what has motivated you to help young people
Absolutely.
now, because you want to give back, because maybe you wish there was maybe a little bit more support for you and your siblings.
I'm going to blow your mind. There's never been a study on children of the military.
None?
Ever.
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 Oh, we got to do something about that.
Now, all of a sudden, there's a few things. Syracuse University, which is a research university, has done some where it's trying to keep up with children post 9/11 children.
Right.
But there was never anything done on World War II veterans' children.
Yes.
Korea, Vietnam. Nothing.
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 Wow.
So and neither of the Gulf Wars either. So if you go back Gulf War I, first Gulf War.
Really is how KOAH
yes.
stemmed from this.
Lack of
doing
knowledge.
the research and
Lack
going,
of knowledge.
hey, like, there's a lot of entities out there that support veterans and spouses, but really nothing for the children. That looks at the children and really identifies them as military children. And even, we talk combat stuff and we talk deployments, Iraq, Afghanistan, but there's deployment cycles and moves. The one student in the video, the one child in the video alluded to the fact, like, I move every 3 years.
I move every 3 years.
I move every 3 years. And I'm going to make new friends. It depends if you're an extrovert, introvert. It just depends on how you're raised.
It's hard on adults to move.
Yeah, it's hard on adults to move.
So now you pack up your little kid and go.
Like,
yeah, you can't make girlfriends because you're going to be saying adios in 3 years.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. I mean, stressful things in your life are, marriage and marriage, divorce, and moving is one of the top, and having a child.
Wow.
And then, moving is a stressful event. And every 3 years, and then pulling a kid out of a school.
Yeah, it's true.
That broke my heart when we moved.
So I'm hoping that through your work and the support that you might get, that you can make some changes here and find out what things need to be done and how we can best support the young people.
Well, last year we sent over 2,000 care packages out to children.
I love the care packages.
Those children, the majority of them, are from Connecticut, just to let you know.
Good.
We are members, we are Yellow Ribbon partners to the National Guard, which means when the Guard does its pre-deployment events, just prep people for becoming deployed, we're invited as a partner to be part of this.
Cool.
And as such, when we're there, we sign up their children for our KOAH Hug. So last year we did over 2,000, and this year we're still on track. We just did an event not too long ago, and I'm sure there's another one coming up. There's about 4 or 5 a year.
Okay,
so
cool.
that's how many times we rotate out our guardsmen.
Very good. Okay, good. So now moving right along. Is there, again, maybe just about a minute, is there an intervention story, whether it's from a care package or a hug or anything that you've done where you could actually see the before and after with a young person?
Absolutely. Let me tell you quickly, because I will make it quick. I know we don't have a lot of time.
I'm sorry. I wish we had so much more time.
It's okay. We'll come back. When I do these Yellow Ribbon events with the team, people who come over and they sign up. Now a year has gone by, so we have revisits of people.
Yeah.
And a mother came up to me one day and said, do you know that every month that my child receives this, we know that it's that much closer that daddy's coming home.
Oh, wow.
So I'll just let that one hang out
All right,
there.
we'll let that resonate with our viewers.
Absolutely.
That's an intervention, a positive intervention. That's awesome. Okay, so now we're talking about what you're doing. What does the future look like in terms of connecting children with their parents or helping them? Are there any futuristic things or future things that we could tell our viewers about?
I think we covered it pretty much.
The Skyping? I think it's the Skyping is kind of that.
And we've expanded into other states too, and it's not just Connecticut, but we've grown regionally. And we're looking, to continue with the deployment cycle.
And our fight is never complete when it comes to speaking with our politicians about adjusting the way our military students are identified in school systems.
Okay.
It's only been since 2016 when Barack Obama signed into law that military students had to be identified in all public schools because they're everywhere. They're in North Haven, they're in Wallingford, they're in Cheshire, they're in Hampton, East Haven, everywhere.
Everywhere.
So this law has been passed,
Excellent.
but it excludes Title
32, which are National Guard members. The governor controls the National Guard for each state. So we want to ensure that not just the deployed National Guard members, but all the National Guard members
get included into this.
as well,
so we need to continue our efforts to be inclusive to all military children, regardless of what branch or how they're serving.
All right, very good. Okay, so now we really have to tell the folks how you're funded and how they can help you. So how can folks help KOAH? And what can they donate on the website?
You can.
They go to the special event we're going to talk about that's going to go up on the screen in a little bit?
Sure.
How can they help?
Well, our website is KOAH USA, KOAHUSA.org.
Cool.
If you come to KOAHUSA.org, you will see a giant red button that says Donate.
Oh, I love it.
Click on that button, you're brought to a secure site.
Okay.
You can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. Oh my gosh, every social media platform there is.
Can they volunteer? Are there volunteer opportunities?
We are always looking for volunteers, definitely.
Yes.
And we're also currently signing up therapists who would like to train coming in September.
Donate time.
They donate time. We will train them in the course so that way they can be part of our curriculum for the children.
All right. So now I know this is going to date this program a little bit, but we're going to try it anyway. You have a special event coming up on February 16th. It's up on the screen. We just wanted to get people to the event.
This event is going to be at the CFC Arena. It is a cornhole event.
I love it.
We host events throughout the entire year, and you can come to KOAH, KOAHUSA.org,
Absolutely.
and you can find out what events we have coming up in the future. But this one is on February 16th, so you can either come wearing black and in mourning for the Valentine's Day that just passed, or in bright red and be very happy.
We're
going to have craft beer tastings.
Ooh.
This is right on Sherman Avenue in Hampton, by the way.
Yay.
We have tickets to give raffle tickets to give away.
Excellent.
So you come in, you fill out a raffle, and it's only $25 a person, teams of 2, up to 32 teams. We're so excited about this. WQUN Radio will be there with Brian Smith, and we'll have a team, so everyone should get on board and come and see it.
Everybody, come on, let's go. Let's all go into this great event, and we're going to have a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
And we're going to do some really good things. Okay, so now, I think we are at a point where we've covered a lot of what we wanted to talk about today. So I hope to have you back again. I'm sure that you will do that from time to time, and we'll talk about the progress that we're making with basically what we're talking about, folks, is learning where our children are, that are military children. We're learning about what is affecting them, such as the descriptions you saw on the video. We're learning how to serve them. Obviously, Maria and Jason are sending out the care packages and giving the hugs. There is so much more that can be done, and they're just asking for a little bit of support. Freedom isn't free. There's a huge price to pay. And we're just saying that as proud Americans that there's so much that we could do. We just need to know about it. So I want to thank my guests, Marie and Jason. Thank you for coming on the show.
Awesome. We loved it. We hope we'll be welcome back soon.
Absolutely. Welcome back a lot. Very soon. Very soon.
Cool.
We'll keep talking about that. So for Community Works, I'm Bernadette Welsh, your host, and I hope you will join us again for another edition of Community Works. See you soon.